Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. This video is sponsored by contribution from Amy. Amy gives a monthly contribution, which I will use for this video. But before I get to the subject matter, I ask everybody to go to the description box and please click on the Rumble link to this video. I ask everybody to watch the video over on Rumble, as I'm still monetized over there, and it'll help with the channel success greatly. On to the subject matter at hand. You know, it's 9:07 a.m. right now on the East Coast. I'm kind of watching off to the side here. They're talking about this sentencing of this Brian Kohlenberger guy, the guy who murdered the 4 students. I think it was in Iowa. You know, it's one of those stories that got a ton of media attention. And not that it shouldn't, it's a tragedy. It really is. It's a tragedy. You got 4 dead 20-year-old college students, no answers. You know, I can't imagine what the parents are going through. It's got to be terrible. And though it deserves media attention, it obviously does something like that. It's this over-the-top media attention. And whenever you're getting over-the-top media attention on a certain story, especially one of these, I guess what you would call a true crime type of story, whenever you're getting like this hyper vigilant, it's always to cover something more serious going on or another crime. A perfect example of that was that Natalie Holloway case back in the was that 2004, 2005. If you remember, it was a girl who got murdered, Jordan Vandersloot. And these are, blasts from the past. But this was a non-stop media frenzy going on for days and days, for weeks, went on for weeks. And at the same time, there was some serious foreign policy stuff going on, some serious stuff that we are reaping the consequences of now that was being completely ignored. And, this is another one of those situations. And the story I'm about to get into, I don't know if I'm not saying it's being done to cover this specific story, but this is the story. If you want a true crime story that you should really care about, not Karen Reed, not Brian Kohlenberger, not that you shouldn't just care about it, not care about it completely, 4 dead college students. But the reality is, more than likely, the guy's nuts and he snapped. The guy probably should have been obviously should have been institutionalized a long time ago. Okay, so the search for answers might be the guy's just crazy. Because he wasn't a serial killer. It wasn't this rash of murders he was committing. It seemed like this was a guy who had some predilections, and they finally got the better of him, and he found some easy targets, and that's what he did. Is it a story? Yeah. Does it deserve the attention it's getting? No. What does? Let me show you. I just came across this on X. And it relates to a couple things. First, our favorite generation, once again, boomers, being given so much leeway and barely being held accountable for anything. And when they are, don't be the one who holds the boomer accountable, because they're going to throw it at you. Let's get into this, shall we? A former police chief was arrested for 43 counts of molesting and raping a 13-year-old girl and was released on $50,000 bond with no contact order. Happened in Arkansas. Arkansas, you would figure red state, hang 'em high, right? This stuff, boy, they'll take this seriously. The victim's family woke early one day with their dog barking. The dad went to his daughter's room and found she was gone in a car driving away. The dad gave chase, ran the car off the road, and found his daughter inside with the suspect. A confrontation ensued, and the dad, Aaron Spencer, shot and killed the suspect. Spencer then called police, reported the incident, and was arrested for second-degree murder. There's no doubt Aaron saved his daughter's life. The suspect was probably trying to eliminate the only witness This case was sent to me by a retired police officers association who are backing Aaron and started a defense fund. Couple things of importance, and I'll back this up with the stories I'm going to read. This is the perpetrator who kidnapped the 13-year-old was a 67-year-old, chief of police. A 67-year-old chief of police who is carrying on a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old. Got caught, then got a no-contact order, got released on $50K bond. $50K, so he probably 10%, he's out on $5,000. We got it so far? So this might be jumping ahead, and I'll have to jump back a little because this is important. Thank God the Arkansas Supreme Court lifted the gag order and unsealed the case in an emphatic way. But this is insane. So what has happened is they charged the father. This judge, Circuit Judge Barbara Elmore, released Fossler on bond. Fossler is the police chief, is the kidnapper. The judge who gave him and released him on the $50K bond is this Elmore woman. Got it? The state charged Spencer, the father, with second-degree murder plus a firearm enhancement in November. Spencer's case, like Fossler's, was assigned to Judge Elmore, the same fucking judge. In December, citing media coverage throughout the state and beyond, as well as statements from Spencer's attorneys calling him a heroic father, the state requested a gag order. They asked Elmore to prohibit Spencer, his attorneys, and any state or local agencies connected with the case, any judicial employees, any public officials, any subpoenaed witnesses from discussing any facts of the case in public. Spencer objected to the gag order because it's unconstitutional. You have a right to defend yourself. This is what I'm talking about. You're not allowed to fight back. This is what I'm talking about. The connection between your personal narcissism and what's going on societally. It's the same rules. The same rules apply. He argued that he would violate both his due process rights to a fair and public trial and his First Amendment right to speak. He requested a hearing in open court on the state's motion. Now, this is the state. These are prosecutors now doing this to this father. The prosecutors, first of all, the cops arrest him. The prosecutors then decide to go in and charge him, and then the judge carries it on. 30 minutes after Spencer filed his response, Judge Elmore granted the state's request for a gag order without holding a hearing. It appears to the court, Elmore wrote, that the dissemination by any means of the public communication out of any court statements relating to this case may interfere with the rights of the defendant in the state of Arkansas to receive a fair and impartial trial. You're right. They're doing it for the defendant's rights. You can't talk about your own case because it'll violate, it'll impede your own trial. Bullshit. It'll be an impediment on your own rights. Bullshit. I can't violate my own rights. Elmore then went a step further and, without being asked by either side in the case, ordered that the entire matter be sealed. Boy, they go out of their way to protect their boomer brethren, don't they? So let's see the details of the case. Arkansas dad faces murder charge for fatally shooting man found with his missing child. Aaron Spencer, 36, was arrested on a preliminary charge of first-degree murder after allegedly killing Michael Fossler, 67. A 67-year-old boomer man with your 13-year-old daughter, after he's already been arrested for 43 counts. 43 counts of child R-word. Gets out on a $50K bond, probably five grand cash. And now he shows up at your house and takes your daughter with you. What are you doing? What are you doing? An Arkansas father was taken into custody after he allegedly shot and killed a man who was found in a vehicle with his missing teenage daughter. A little more to the story. He wasn't found. He ran him off the road after the guy ran from him. Aaron Spencer, 36, reported his 14-year-old daughter missing on October 8, and Lonoke County Sheriff's Office deputies were dispatched to his home. Meanwhile, Spencer had tracked down his daughter, who was found in a vehicle with Michael Fossler, 67, according to the Lonoke County Sheriff's Office press release. A confrontation between the two men escalated, and Spencer shot and killed Fossler, police said. Spencer was arrested on one preliminary charge of first-degree murder and was booked into Lonoke County Detention Center. His wife, Heather, slammed the arrest as outrageous and revealed the disturbing details in a Give, Send, Go campaign, claiming that several months ago, their then 13-year-old daughter was targeted, groomed, and then ultimately R-worded by the boyfriend of a family friend. It's always a friend of a friend, right? Choose your friends better. Reportedly to be Fossler. She explained that Fossler faced pending charges and was reportedly on bond on a no-contact order, but he reached out to the teen while free on bond. We let the justice, and look, the teen might have went along with him, quote unquote, willingly. She's 13, 14. She don't get to make that decision. Her brain don't work right. That's why it's illegal to carry on a sexual relationship with a minor. We let the justice system do its job. The monster who hurt our child was charged quickly but released even faster on a $50,000 bond, she wrote. Mind you, the same judge that's handling this guy's case. He was awaiting court in December for several felonies in relation to what he did to our child. The couple reported their daughter missing after they were woken up by her dog, which they said was unusual. This is unusual, and it caused us to check on her. In that moment, we lived every parent's biggest fear as we realized our teen child was missing, Heather wrote. We frantically searched our home, property, and started calling friends, family, and 911. My husband immediately got in his truck to go blindly searching for our child. She said it was by God's never-failing grace that her husband caught up with Fossler, who allegedly had the minor child with him in the vehicle. It's not allegedly. Either he did or he didn't. How is it alleged? A car chase ensued and then ended in collision. As soon as the predator knew my husband was behind him, he ran. The chase ended in an accident. Aaron was able to retrieve our child alive. But in the process, he was attacked and did what he had to do to protect himself and our minor child, she wrote in reference to the fatal shooting. He is now facing an outrageous murder one charge. And boy, is that. I have no doubt our child would have not have come home if our husband hadn't found her, she added, describing Spencer as a military veteran and hero. According to the campaign, Spencer is now home after posting a $150,000 bond. So the police chief boomer rapist gets $50,000, he gets $150,000. Now you could say it's a more aggravated charge, but how does it even get this far? How does the same judge even look at it? Like, how do you do it? You're corrupt. That's how you do it. You're corrupt, and you're protecting your boomer brethren. In a press conference, Sheriff John Staley said it would be up to the Lonoke County Prosecuting Office to decide whether or not to actually file charges against Spencer. He called the case a tragic situation and said his thoughts and prayers are with all those involved. Yeah, I bet they are, buddy. So under the gag order that this piece of shit judge put on the father, Arkansas State Supreme Court thankfully steps in. State Supreme Court lifts gag order on father who shot man he found with his 13-year-old daughter. The Arkansas Supreme Court on Thursday vacated a gag order in the case of Aaron Spencer, a Lonoke County man charged with second-degree murder in the death of Michael Fossler in October. Fossler, 67 at the time of his death, had previously been arrested and charged with several offenses against Spencer's teenage daughter, calling the Lonoke County Circuit Court's gag order in the case a gross abuse of discretion. The Supreme Court struck the order in its entirety. Let me read that again. Calling the Lonoke County Circuit Court gag order in the case a gross abuse of discretion. The Supreme Court struck the order in its entirety. The problem with this is, the guy now can talk, but there's no repercussions for this judge, for any of these judges, when they do this, when they are overturned, and when there's something that's so gross and so egregious and such an abuse, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Should be, if you're overturned 3 times by an appellate court, you lose your bench seat. That's how that should work. The facts of the case, which quickly drew attention inside and outside of Arkansas, I never heard of it until today, are straightforward. Foster was arrested in July and charged with 43 counts, including sexual assault of a minor, internet stalking of a child, and possession of child pornography, some or all of which related to a relationship between Foster and Spencer's then 13-year-old daughter. Circuit Judge Barbara Elmore released Foster on bond. Late one night in October, Spencer told police he heard his dogs barking and went to his daughter's room to check on her. She was not there. Spencer called 911 to report her missing and then went looking for her. A short time later, he found his daughter and Foster in Foster's truck, and Spencer forced the truck off the road. This led to an altercation between the men, after which Spencer called 911 again to report that he'd shot Foster. Foster died at the scene. Good. The state charged Spencer with second-degree murder plus a firearm enhancement in November. Spencer's case, like Foster's, was assigned to Judge Elmore. In December, citing media coverage throughout the state and beyond, as well as statements from Spencer's attorneys calling him a heroic father, the state requested a gag order. Anybody ever hear of this case before I talked about it? Anybody who's legitimately heard of this case before I talked about it, let me know. So what was the gag order about? The gag order was about protecting the boomer cop. That's what it was about. Again, this is the case that should be all over the national media. This is the case that should be getting spoken about every day. Not the Kohlberger one. Not the Kohlberger one. Not that it doesn't deserve updates. Of course it does. Of course it does. Does it deserve the over-the-top media attention that something like this? Now, there's more victims in the Kohlberger case, obviously. But in the Kohlberger case, you're dealing with somebody who snapped, in my opinion. This, I promise you, this isn't the first time this boomer has assaulted a child, has gotten away with something like this. I promise you that. This whole thing screams a massive cover-up from the cops, from the prosecutors, from the judge. This is the case that everybody should be screaming about, and I hadn't heard about it until an hour ago. They asked Elmore to prohibit Spencer, his attorneys, or any state or local agencies connected with the case, or any judicial employees, any public officials, or any subpoenaed witnesses from discussing any facts in the case in public. They want to do this. They want to do it in secret so they can make it go away. Luckily, the Arkansas Supreme Court didn't let them get away with it. Why were they wanting to hide this so badly? For the same reason they're pushing the Kohlberger case. Okay, this one has more dire consequences than the Kohlberger case. Kohlberger case is solved by putting these people in mental institutions when the first red flag was shown. This is deep. This is interconnected within our government, within our justice system, within our judiciary. Spencer objected to the gag order. He argued that it would violate both his due process rights to be a fair and public trial and his First Amendment right to speak. He requested in a hearing, open court, on the state's motion. 30 minutes after Spencer filed his response, Judge Elmore granted the state's request for a gag order without holding a hearing. They taunt you while they do it. Do you understand? It's to demoralize you, to let you know you don't have a chance, let you know we're in charge. It appears to the court, Elmore wrote, that the dissemination by any means of the public communication of any out-of-court statements relating to this case may interfere with the rights of the defendant. Yeah, right. That's what they care. That's what she's caring about. And the state of Arkansas to receive a fair and impartial trial. Elmore then went a step further without being asked by either side in the case and ordered that the entire matter be sealed. So nobody can even find out about it. The judiciary needs to be completely blown up. The state and federal, both state and federal judiciaries. The state Supreme Court was having none of it. The justices said the order was in its face a plain, manifest, clear, and gross abuse of discretion and in excess of its authority, and declined to uphold any part of the order in light of the order's clear lack of an evidentiary basis as a whole. Just read that one more time. Was on its face plain, manifest, clear, and gross abuse of discretion and in excess of its authority, and declined to uphold any part of the order in light of the order's clear lack of an evidentiary basis as a whole. Complete and utter bullshit. Now, if there was a corrupt Arkansas Supreme Court, because obviously this got through a district court, it got through a district appellate court before it got to the Supreme Court. If the Arkansas Supreme Court was corrupt, you'd never even know about it, because it'd be under gag order, which just is just exactly how the sociopath likes it. The court looked at three categories of Elmore's gag order, sought to restrain: attorneys in the case, non-attorneys in the case, and the public at large. Regarding attorneys, the court said Arkansas's ethics rules allow prior restraint of their extrajudicial speech only where that speech poses a substantial likelihood of material prejudice to an ongoing criminal proceeding. Non-attorney participants, however, could be restrained from speaking about a case only to the extent that their speech poses a serious and imminent threat of material prejudice to an ongoing criminal procedure. They not only wanted to stop anybody involved with the case from talking about it, they want to stop everybody from, nobody can talk about this. The court was especially critical of Elmore's attempts to restrain the speech of other individuals who are not participating in the case. Finally, we addressed prior restraints on the public whose speech is afforded the most protection in the context of gag orders. Restraining the speech of the public raises obvious issues regarding the lack of due process. We cannot fathom why the circuit court believed it could prohibit the speech of any public official now holding office. This is how out of control these judges are. This is how out of control the Milord group is. But Milord agree. Sociopaths. There should be a psychological test, a personality test to be licensed as an attorney. Because you'd probably lose about 95% of them because they all register as cluster B antisocial sociopaths. In fact, it's difficult to foresee any circumstance in which a prior restraint on speech of a member of the public, which would include a public official, would be constitutional. The justices also said a lower court should take other findings into account when considering a proposed gag order, such as whether the order is narrowly tailored to prohibit only what is necessary to protect the integrity of the proceedings. Judge Elmore made no such findings, the court said. Yeah, she just said you can't talk about it. The court also addressed Elmore's decision to seal the entire case. The justices pointedly called out Elmore for shielding all the case filings from the public, as well as preventing the public from watching the proceedings. Not only are the written records inaccessible to the public, but also the briefs and statements from counsel at oral argument indicate that the Lonoke County Circuit Court's courtroom was at least partially closed to the public during Spencer's arraignment. Although it appears the Circuit Court intends to close further proceedings to the public, we caution the court from doing so without any evidentiary basis and adherence to the required constitutional analysis. So the Supreme Court's already telling this judge here, don't try to kick out the cameras out of the office, out of your courtroom, and hold a trial in secret, because we're going to overrule you real quick on that one too. So they're already putting her on notice. You better hold a fair trial, and you better not try to hide it from the public. Why isn't this all over Fox News? Why isn't this all over Newsmax or OAN or any of the other media? Why? Kohlberger's a nut. He's a nut. You're not going to find out there's some grand conspiracy with Kohlberger that, that it was Israel with Kohl. That's not it. It wasn't Obama. It wasn't the Democrats with Kohlberger. It wasn't political. The guy's nuts. That's why they want you to focus on it, because it goes nowhere. He's just crazy. These are the type of cases. These are the type of cases that you need to be focusing on. Associate Justice Nicholas Brony wrote a scathing concurrence joined by Associate Justices Sean Womack and Cody Hyland that went even further in its rebuke of Elmore's action. Brony said that the gag order is only one part of a troubling pattern of attempts to shield this case from public view, beginning with a non-public arraignment and ending with a handwritten note sealing the entire case from public view. We cannot allow that pattern to continue unchecked, Brony wrote, adding that he would have invoked the court's superintending authority and reassigned the case to a new judge. So this justice, who wrote a concurring opinion, says this judge shouldn't even be on the case. Probably, if he had his way, shouldn't even be on the bench. Anything less suggests that what's happened so far is within the acceptable range of disagreement or administration, and it isn't. Have you heard about this case? How many more cases like this are there that you haven't found out about? But they're going to talk to you about this Kohlberger case. He's nuts. He's a nut. He should have been institutionalized a long time ago. It's tragic. I feel horrendously for the family. Yeah, it should get media. It should get media attention. You should find out what happened with it, but not at the expense. Not at the expense of some 67-year-old boomer cop raping a 13-year-old, getting arrested, and then kidnapping that child, leading to an altercation. Not this. The case now returns to Lonoke County Circuit Court. No trial date has been scheduled at this time. And this was posted. This is from May 29th, 2025. Have you heard about anything about this case? You know anything about this case? I doubt it. If you have, let me know. But you'll hear about the Kohlberger case, and then believe me, it's tragic. It'll grab eyes and it'll grab attention because of the nature of what it is. But it ain't this. This is serious. This is society refusing to hold the boomer accountable. The boomer, the cop, the government worker, it's all interconnected. So, thank you, Amy, for your contribution. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do. Do the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my channels on Rumble. If you haven't watched the video on Rumble, please watch it over there. Even a click helps, even if you don't watch it all the way through. Follow me on X and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.